Transport Canada is freezing rebate payments for Tesla until each claim is individually investigated.
Donna, vehicles are Canada's second largest export by value at $51 billion. The vast majority of those, 93%, go to the U.S.
In a shocking turn of events, Canada is firing back at former U.S. President Donald Trump as tensions between the two North American neighbors reach a boiling point. What started as disagreements over trade policies and diplomatic differences has now spiraled into a full-scale economic war. Canada, once a close ally of the United States, is now forced to take a hard stance in response to Trump's policies. But what's at the heart of this intense conflict, and why has it escalated so quickly? Background: the rising tensions. It all began with a series of trade disputes and harsh comments from Trump, who often criticized Canada's trade policies and its role in various international agreements. From tariffs on steel and aluminum to agricultural subsidies, Trump made it clear that he believed Canada was taking advantage of the U.S. for too long. His administration took steps that greatly affected Canadian industries, causing ripples in the economy. But in 2025, these tensions reached a tipping point when Trump made bold statements about renegotiating NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, and even threatened to impose new sanctions on Canadian goods. Canada, refusing to back down, decided it had had enough. Canada's response: the fury unleashed. In response, Canada has started taking direct action. The Canadian government announced retaliatory tariffs on U.S. imports, targeting key sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, and technology. The economic backlash has been swift, with U.S. companies feeling the pressure from these tariffs. Furthermore, Canada has been building stronger trade relationships with other countries, especially in Europe and Asia, to reduce its reliance on the U.S. market. This shift is a direct challenge to Trump's America First agenda, signaling that Canada is willing to step outside the U.S. shadow and pursue its own economic interests. The economic fallout impact on both sides. Trump's policies had already caused significant harm to the U.S.-Canada trade relationship. Now, with these retaliatory measures in place, the economic fallout is even more severe. Both countries are facing disruptions in trade, with industries on both sides struggling to cope with the new tariffs and restrictions. In the U.S., businesses that relied on Canadian imports are feeling the pinch. The agricultural sector, especially, is seeing a sharp decline in exports to Canada, while the tech industry is facing delays in supply chains and higher costs. On the Canadian side, industries like automotive manufacturing and natural resources are bearing the brunt of U.S. sanctions. But despite the challenges, Canada has proven resilient, with the government taking steps to minimize the economic damage, such as diversifying trade routes and strengthening domestic industries. Trump's reaction: a defiant stance. Despite Canada's retaliation, Trump has remained defiant. In public statements, he has doubled down on his America First rhetoric, claiming that the U.S. economy will not only survive but thrive as a result of these economic battles. He argues that Canada's retaliation will hurt Canadian businesses more than U.S. ones, and that the U.S. will eventually come out on top in this trade war. But Trump's stance is not without controversy. Many experts argue that his hardline policies have alienated traditional allies, and the economic fallout from this dispute could harm U.S. businesses more than he anticipates. His supporters, however, continue to back his protectionist approach, believing it's in the best interest of the American people. The global stage: Canada's strategic move. Canada's response is not just about trade with the U.S., it's also a strategic move on the global stage. By diversifying its trade partners and strengthening relationships with countries like China, India, and the European Union, Canada is sending a message that it doesn't have to depend on the U.S. for economic success. This new approach could reshape the North American trade landscape, potentially diminishing the U.S.'s influence in the region. As Canada continues to strengthen its global ties, the U.S. may find itself increasingly isolated, particularly if more countries follow Canada's lead in shifting away from American-centric trade policies. The fallout continues. What's next for the U.S.-Canada relationship? With the tensions continuing to escalate, it's unclear what the future holds for U.S.-Canada relations. The economic war shows no signs of letting up, and both countries are digging in their heels. For Canada, the retaliation is about protecting its own economic interests and showing the world that it won't be bullied by its larger neighbor. For Trump, it's about maintaining his stance on American sovereignty and trade dominance. The question remains, can these two countries find a way to de-escalate, or are they on the path to a long-term economic conflict that could redefine the future of North America? This ongoing economic war between Canada and Trump could have far-reaching consequences, not only for the two countries involved but for the entire global economy. We'll be watching closely as the situation develops. If you want to stay updated on this and other major global events, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And let us know in the comments, do you think Canada will emerge victorious in this trade battle, or will Trump's policies ultimately prevail? Stay tuned.